Good evening, YouTube. Good evening, everyone. I am your bisexual host, Alex Wiley. Joining me are ethnic minority Koki Pirate. Koki, so what planet are Mormons originally from?
Well, the bulk of Mormon cosmology appears in the Book of Abraham, chapter 3, and there's repeated messages of a certain planet, or possibly a star, called Kolob. Actually, Kolob, they could be two separate entities, Kolob the planet, Kolob the star. It's very confusing. But in Abraham 3:3, he says that the name of the Great One is Kolob because it is near unto me. It says Kolob was after the manner of the Lord. It actually talks about like 1,000 years, Earth years being one day on Kolob, which is kind of interesting. But yes, if this sounds familiar, it should, because the planet Kobol on Battlestar Galactica is based off of Kolob in Mormon mythology. They also have currency based off of biblical measurements. Battlestar Galactica, in other words, is very sort of Mormon-y show. But yes, it originates from Abraham chapter 3, which basically refers to Kolob being a significant planet that's either where God's throne is or the nearest to God's throne.
Oh, okay. You know, I never dreamt that there'd actually be an answer to that question. But hey, there's also, this proves Eddie Izzard wrong. I'm loath to say it, but Eddie Izzard didn't act in...
Eddie Izzard said something about...
Eddie Izzard claims that Mormons were from Mars.
Yeah, that is quite false.
That was geographically inaccurate.
Well, Spirit Science claims that Jesus from space. How could they breathe in space?
Exactly.
You clearly didn't see the Sensorites.
Are Jews really Sensorites? Anyway, and our token Scotsman. That's it. That's your true identity, Gunderson. You did discover your true identity. Your DNA profile has come back as definitely Scottish. So, stitch this, Jimmy. Is that what they say in Scotland? You see, he even speaks the lingo. And our token female, schizophrenic queen.
Hello.
Do you think you'll have enough sandwiches made in time for the zombie apocalypse?
Only if they're peanut butter.
Excellent. And, well, I'm sure everybody loves peanut butter, zombies included, I'm sure. And I just realised how, in that context, the question suddenly became sexist, when it wasn't originally. But I went from saying you were the token woman to asking you how many sandwiches you'd made.
Yeah, I don't have to make you a sandwich, goddammit. You make your own damn sandwich, my friend.
Yeah, but if you don't feed the zombies peanut butter sandwiches, they'll be even hungrier for your brain.
Well, what if I just trick them with cauliflower and get a bunch of cauliflower and throw it at them, and they'll think it's brains and they'll eat it all up?
Joke's on them. My brain is peanut butter sandwiches.
Are there vegetarian
They'll smell
zombies?
the difference.
I think this needs to be. This is such a big discussion. It needs to be its own show. And you, James, 1978. Do you have an opinion about anything?
Ooh, I will have to see. When will the day come when my reaction will be, I have no strong feelings one way or the other?
So, without further ado, dear audience, linked in la description are two articles. The BBC has two new policies. One is that every panel show, I suppose, being a bit like the television version of what we're doing now. Note, I'm the host. We have an ethnic minority. We have a Scottish person, whatever that is, and we have a woman.
Sure, if human.
Exactly. Unclassified life form. And so every panel show, which usually has one host and 4 guests, must have at least one woman. And 1 in 7 television presenters working for the BBC have to be black, Asian, or in some sense an ethnic minority. And there are, of course, arguments for and against this. Mock the Week's Milton Jones makes his case, that's also in La Description, for why he doesn't think it's a good idea. Now, obviously, this is what, back in my day, the British called positive discrimination. I've just been informed by Gunderson we've changed it to positive action. In America, it's known as affirmative action. Koki Pirate, your thoughts?
Well, in terms of what we don't want, but is still better than not including women alone, is to create a state of affairs where you have all of these panelists that you do want, and then you're like, oh yeah, we need at least one woman. And then you're going through a list of women, and, you pick one of those. I think Moffat said something akin to why he didn't choose a woman to play the doctor. He's like, well, I wasn't looking for a black doctor or a woman doctor. I just wanted to pick the person that I thought was right for the doctor role. Mm-hmm. That being said, how do you acquire this state of affairs that there's so many noteworthy females that come to mind that you would know, this is who I want? And that's, of course, increasing their visibility in the media and television. So, in that sense, we could say that affirmative action or positive action could be effective in that. But I suppose there's also the argument to be made of free enterprise. The idea is that if you own a media outlet, it is yours, and, you shouldn't be bogged down with rules in terms of how you wish to express yourself, how you wish to appeal to the masses, because, that can be a bit stifling of freedom if you always have to communicate this message with a certain amount of diversity and so on, as opposed to, choosing whatever dynamic personalities are coming to your mind. But that being said, I feel as though the only reason why it would be stifling is because we haven't hit that point where there are enough women and minorities in the media that we know exactly who we want. Instead, we have to say, oh yeah, we need an Asian person. Who comes to mind? That's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to have enough ethnic minority personalities that are well known, enough female personalities that are well known. And so, yeah, I think I'm mostly for it.
Okay, yeah, I kind of see it as a pragmatic stepping stone. It's not an ideal, but the point is to reach a point where we won't need. Also, you may be able to hear the token cat, so please welcome Nissa, who I don't think will be contributing much other than purring. But yes, Gunderson, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I do think I agree with Koki mostly that it does have a laudable goal of increasing the visibility and voice of ethnic minorities and women, and basically making them, making the voice of white men less, just so heavily the norm. So I can understand. The only real, it's not, I don't even necessarily think that it might be a bit stifling. Well, I mean, that's a valid objection, but more, the main problem I see with it is, I guess, everyone who will be screaming, it might give more ammunition to the people who will inevitably scream, they just got on because they're a woman, or they just got on because they're not white. So that's the only real setback I see in this.
Okay, Queenie?
Oh, I'd say we are always going to have the naysayers, but as far as, culturally and societally, I think we're at a point where no matter how much we don't like it or think it's not necessary, it is necessary for the moment. And hopefully we'll reach a day when it's not necessary anymore.
Okay, succinct. And you, James?
Yes, first of all, just to address one point that Koki made, talking about free enterprise owning a TV station, television channel, etc. The BBC is the people's television station, the television network, whatever the correct term is, here in Britain. They are independent of the government, but they are funded by a licence fee. They are effectively funded by the British by the British people. Their stated goal, their charter, is to be as representative as possible, to be as diverse as possible. So whilst creativity and individual freedom is still an issue, representing all of the people of Britain as much as possible is part of their stated goal. And yes, I agree with the rest of the panel, basically. Movie Bob also brought this up as well in a YouTube video whilst discussing affirmative action, positive action in Hollywood movies specifically. Obviously, he's talking, Movie Bob talking about films. In the recent Thor movie made by Marvel Studios, Thor being a Norse god, one of the Norse gods, Heimdall, was played by an African-American actor, and people lost their shit. How can an African-American play a Norse god? And, well, if African-Americans can be in white roles, then why can't we have more white people in ethnic minority roles? Why can't we see a white person play... Why is it racist when a white person plays the Emperor of China? Yes, because white actors have so much difficulty finding roles. They are so oppressed and discriminated against in the wider culture. The basic points, the basic conclusion that Movie Bob reached, and with which I agree and the rest of the panel agree, it's not the ideal solution, but it is necessary. If it was a perfect world, we wouldn't have this problem. But as it is, white, straight men are the norm. They are everywhere, meaning that in order to achieve equality, to achieve diversity, we have to stick out. Ethnic minorities, women, LGBT individuals have to stick their boot in the door, have their boot stuck in the door. The equivalent of putting salad on the buffet table as well and saying you don't have to eat it, but we're not getting rid of it. Yeah, actually having it there. And as Koki said, yes, we're being forced to include women or ethnic minorities when we were perfectly happy just having 4 straight white men on the show. That's precisely the point. The fact that you didn't think of women or people who are not white or straight in the first place. Well, welcome to the 21st century.
Okay, so to reference what you, James, said, with his example of, a white person playing the Emperor of China, as you said, I can understand why, in that for those kinds of examples of cultural and historical context that, I guess skin colour would matter because it would be absurd, for the historical reasons, which, just like me and Alex once talked about how it was a concert performance of Les Mis where Javert was played by a black man.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's easy to suspend your disbelief if it's a concert, I suppose. Whereas if it had been like a film or a regular stage performance, it wouldn't really make sense because Obviously, France at that time was a very fundamentally racist society, so a black man achieving that position of power would be quite unheard of. So do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I don't necessarily see the relevance. In individual cases and contexts, absolutely. But as a broad sweeping policy, the concept of affirmative action, positive action, remains...
Oh yeah, I'm guessing it's not really related to the affirmative, positive action thing.
Again, in historical circumstances, when we're watching John Wayne playing Genghis Khan, we're thinking, what for the love of the great holy donkey. And likewise, Broken Arrow, the original James Stewart film, absolutely excellent. It would have been even better if the people playing the leading Apache roles were actually Apache themselves.
Oh yeah, our Apache.
To be honest, go ahead.
Sorry, our Apache Native Americans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, just many of the Apaches in the film were played by Apaches, but the leading role, particularly James Stewart's love interest, was a white woman in red face.
Oh dear.
Okay? Obviously, red face is a completely different example, and I certainly wouldn't put white person in blackface or white man playing the Emperor of China on the same level as a black person playing a historically white character. But I'm just saying, is it really that demanding to ask the audience to use their imagination a little bit? I mean, if a Martin Luther King movie came out and there was this Korean woman who played Martin Luther King really well, would it be that bizarre?
It would depend on the artistic context. I think Baydun Na would actually fucking nail that role. But yes, that is an entirely different question. There is actually a film called Suture. I adore the ending of it. I've actually used it in one of my videos, in which the plot of the film is that a white man and an African-American actor, you might remember him, he's the guy who played the president in the original series 24. He was in fiction, he was the first black president before Barack Obama. Oh, no, he was running for president, sorry. This was long before Barack Obama. But the idea is that these two people, one black, one white, are supposed to be doppelgangers. And throughout the film, they can't tell each other apart. No one can tell them apart. It is the ultimate art house artistic statement. You see, it's a social commentary on racism, poverty, the standards that we impose, the labels that we impose. But so again, directors can ask that kind of thing of the audience. However, that's not necessarily the issue at hand. We're just so again, it's just the fact that being straight, white, and male on television or in films, cisgendered, is so much the norm. Dallas Buyers Club. Well, are there any trans actors? Slap.
Yes.
Yes. Has the Bun gotten tired of force-feeding Jared Leto elephant anus?
Yeah.
Feeding what?
It's a reference to the Bun's comments some months ago on this show about Jared Leto's portrayal, him being a straight cisgendered man playing or trying to play a trans woman in this film, which angered quite a few of us.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, the less said about the bun from my perspective, the better.
It's acting. I mean, that's what you do. I mean, I personally haven't seen the performance, but so I can't judge whether or not it was good or not. But personally, it's acting. Acting is, on its most fundamental level, pretending to be someone or something that you're not. And, like, if he was being, like, totally stereotypical with it, like making him look bad and all this sort of stuff, I can understand why people would be mad. But otherwise...
That's hitting the nail on the head. Unfortunately, he did. There's also the fact
okay, so now I can see where the problem is.
There were also script problems, and the fact that the director hadn't even researched if there are any trans actors to hire, which means he didn't even audition any, I think is pretty shocking.
Now I can see the problem, whereas before I thought you were being, like, there was an issue just because people wanted there to be an issue.
Yeah,
and I think that's a lot of where the communication problems come in, where you don't know if people are being genuinely offended or if they're merely being offended for the sake of being offended. And that's a lot of where the Tumblr culture kind of, like, skews things.
Yeah, but getting back to the original point, again, it is an issue of Jared Leto playing a transgendered individual when he is cisgendered, versus the director asking, are there any trans actors? Literally, it never even occurring to him that someone who is trans could have played that role. Because, yes, we're not getting back to the original point, we're not talking about fictional characters, white people playing the Emperor of Japan or Apache maidens, or a black man playing a Norse god from Norse mythology.
Personally, I can't wait to see the Black Annie movie.
I think it's a bit. I think it's a bit different with that because these are fictional entities.
Exactly.
Sorry for interrupting, by the way.
Let me get to the point. We are talking about the depiction of real human beings on television, presenters and guests on panel shows. So yes, again, we can talk about the portrayal of fictional characters, but that is largely besides the point. The same issue of the total dominance of straight, white, cisgendered, English-speaking men on television is the reason why this policy exists. And yes, we all agree in the end that whilst it's not the ideal solution, that it will give ammunition to the naysayers who insist that it's tokenism and, you're only getting ahead because of a quota. You know, what about all of the poor white people who can't get a job because you stole their jobs, you evil Sambo, or what have you? Sambo in inverted commas, obviously. But even in spite of all of that, it is the best possible solution that we have available. Okay.
Well, I think this is a very, very big topic, and the representation of people in movies and the media, it's a topic I'm interested in. I think I'm going to save that for another show, and it's clearly very expansive. So I'm going to go round and ask people to give their final thoughts and goodbyes. Koki Pirates?
My final thoughts is yes. Yes, you, James, has an opinion.
Okay. And Gunderson?
I don't think I, on the other hand, don't really have anything else to say. So, I've said everything I can say, to be honest.
Okay. And Queenie?
Well, I think you can kind of see people's latent biases, at the very least, if not, actual sort of like racism and sexism and that sort of thing, when you see that somebody's been placed in a role where it's not perceived that they fit, like the Black Norse god, which when you think about it in the context of the movie, they're aliens. They're aliens, so why should it matter? I mean, they're not actual Norse gods. But another movie that I actually want to see is the new Annie film, where Annie is played by a black girl.
As long as she's still a redhead.
Oh, she's not even a redhead. But I see it. And when it was first being talked about, when it was coming out and this sort of thing, there were so many people who was like, no, Annie's a white redhead, she has to be a redhead, she has to be white, blah, 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 blah. And I just thought, well, when you think about it, isn't like the neighborhood they're talking about doesn't have the same sort of ethnic landscape as it did in the original movie. So of course, I believe that it's perfectly acceptable to have a black Annie, and she doesn't even have to have red hair, and Mr. whatever his name was, the rich dude, can totally be black too, and it doesn't even matter. But that's just me.
I genuinely cannot suspend my disbelief if Annie is played by an actress with a soul.
Sorry, who's Annie again?
The sun will come out.
Red-haired orphan.
Bet your bottom dollar. I'm going to stop singing now because I can't sing. But the thing is, if they've updated it, then it won't have FDR in it. It'll be like they'll have to really change the script because Roosevelt's in the original, so that it's supposed to be the Depression. If it's set now, it's set in a whole new Depression. Maybe that's a reason to make it. I can't imagine Annie without FDR in it. Anyway, that's just me. That's my objection. How dare you try and do Annie without Roosevelt? Anyway, So, you, James.
Yes, Schizophrenic Queen nailed it right on the head there when she talked about latent bigotry, latent perceptions. Yes, see a white man playing an ethnic minority role, see a straight person playing a cisgendered role, what have you, not a problem. See a black man playing a black girl playing a white role, everyone loses their fucking minds, to quote the internet meme. It is about breaking down that latent bigotry, that social norm.
Aha. And on that bombshell, good night, YouTube. Good night, everyone. Happy Tuesday, Internet. Happy Tuesday, everyone. And tonight I am once again joined by Cookie Pirate.
Hello.
Gunderson.
Hey up.
Queenie.
Hello.
James.
Konbanwa.
Konnichiwa. And the one word of Japanese I know. And yes, once again there is an intriguingly titled video in la description, which is making a point about guns and gun safety, albeit somewhat comedically, shall we say. Perhaps people would like to click, and it's a quick video if you want to go and watch it quickly before proceeding. And the sort of tagline, as it were, is, if they find it, they'll play with it. And I do think that it does sort of highlight, and part of what they're saying is, this would shock you. This would appall you. And I don't actually know, off the top of my head, and maybe I should have looked this up, because I did see some stats not long ago about how many American children are killed by other American children playing with guns. And the point of the matter is, the anti-gun control people in America are always saying, well, that you can't judge everybody the same because we know about gun safety. You don't keep it loaded, keep it locked away in a safe or something. But the fact of the matter is, at some point, children are going to get into the gun cabinet, and you can't trust everyone to be responsible, and people die. There's also the 5 grown men who chopped their own penises off in the past couple of years. But anyway, yes. I'm going to go in reverse order of yesterday. So, you, James, your thoughts on the video, the message, and the issue.
The video, it's quite funny if you're a sexually repressed American, or, well, anyone. So many people are sexually repressed. Yes, it's two children sword fighting with dildos, because of course they don't know what they are. Oh, ha ha ha! It's so hilarious.
It's the look on the women's faces that's funny.
No, again, it's just, oh, you have a dildo, do you? Well, yes, and I do too.
Wait, why would they both have separate dildos in the same house? I would assume that they both belong to one of the women, unless they came to show each other one another's dildos, which would be funny.
I think one is a neighbour who popped over with her kid, and the kid's on a play date. And so one kid, unbeknownst to their mother, brought that dildo with them. So I think the implication is they each own a dildo. But anyway,
you own a dildo. Yes, I do too. The kids don't know what they're playing with. Let's hide the matter. But yes, this video was brought to us by a group called Evolve. Their motto being, it's the right to bear arms, not the right to be a dumbass. Now, you see, the problem, though, with the idea of always unloading your guns and locking them away in a gun cabinet or a safe is that it's an evil plot by Obama to disarm us, so that when his evil Nazi, Muslim, culturally Marxist, feminazi stormtroopers kick down the door, we won't be able to defend ourselves. Seriously, there are people in America who literally sleep with a loaded gun under their pillow.
I know somebody on my Facebook puts up an image. I often see troubling things on my Facebook, like really bad arguments that are anti-gun control or whatever. And someone had posted this thing that said, "Oh, so you're against having a gun, are you? But admit it. When there's an intruder in the house, what are you going to do? Phone a friend who owns a gun?" And I sarcastically commented, "Yes, because calling the police would never occur to me." I was like, do that many Americans immediately? Their brain immediately goes to, "Damn, there's an intruder. I'm anti-gun ownership. Better phone the friend I know who owns a gun and wait for them."
So one gun nut, she was a wife of someone who's part of one of these nut job militias that run around in the southern United States shooting up forests, said, well, the only reason you call the police is because they have guns, so why not just cut out the middleman?
Well, we also need to bear in mind, I don't know about these people individually, but a lot of these people also have this severe mistrust of the police. You know, a lot of this sort of gun ownership culture.
Oh yeah, that is the fundamental basis of this gun obsession in America. It is fear of the government, fear of the police, fear of the neighbours, fear of yourself. You have to be armed 24 hours a day because somebody somewhere is always out to get you. You can't trust the government to protect you because they're out to get you. You can't trust the police to protect you because they're out to get you. This old West mentality that if you're strong, you have a gun. If you don't, you're dead.
It should be noted that in the pioneer days of the West, guns were outlawed.
The fact that they were outlawed didn't stop the people owning them, though. And,
I know, but we have some misconceptions of what that era of American history was like.
But even if our perception of that period is false, that false perception is what the same attitude, the same fear which created that false perception is what still controls a significant percentage of Americans to this very day. as I say, the fear that everyone is out to get you, and the certainty that rights, freedoms, safety, and everything else is governed by who has the most guns.
Queenie, as our token American citizen, of guns and dildos.
Well, I think you should have an effective strategy for keeping them both out of the hands of children if you don't, at the very least, want to be embarrassed. I mean, those two ladies looked pretty mortified. It's like, oh my God, they're playing with Dada! And then, but I mean, when you think about it, kids playing with guns is a bit more severe than that, so...
Oh, yeah. I think that's part of the point. It's like, this shocks you, you know, which ties in with what James was saying.
But imagine if they shot each other in the face. That would definitely be worse.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes, well, it's rather like a point that James has made before, that we care... Actually, and Gunsman's made a similar point on Facebook, that there's so much, you know, that people are mortified by sexual things, but somehow dangerous things like violence, you know, people are so often cool with.
Yeah.
When did I make that point?
Didn't you say that on the Facebook status not long ago?
I don't remember, to be honest.
Oh, okay. But Queenie, do you think this video sends out an effective gun safety message?
I think that the people who wouldn't listen to it anyway, but...
Right.
That's just me. I mean, for a moderate, responsible gun owner, it is going to be like a reminder, hey, remember to lock up your guns.
Yeah, but as I say, the main reason why a significant percentage of gun owners in America own guns in the first place is because they are terrified of how they keep it loaded under the pillow because they're afraid of everyone and everything. Yeah,
well, my parents own guns, and they keep them locked up. And my mom only wanted the guns because she thought Obama didn't want her to have the gun.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, like a woman, she bought them because they're pretty.
Okay, we've had a sexist remark on the show, but I do want to point out it wasn't from one of the men.
So it's okay.
But if you make one, I'm going to jump down your throat. Just keep that in mind. I can only make the sexist remarks here.
If women get to have pretty guns, I want a pretty gun.
Well, then you should go get a pretty gun.
I want one of those guns that fit securely in my bra. You know, seems really handy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want an official My Little Pony gun.
They probably make those.
Actually,
if they make fleshlights, I'm sure they make guns.
Okay, Gunderson, your thoughts on the video, the message, and the issue?
Yeah, I was basically going to bring up what you just said about, you know, if this stuff about sex shocks you more than, you know, your own children's safety, then there's something, you've got your priorities very messed up.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I guess you already brought that up. So I guess in a way it could be interpreted as, you know, poking fun at people's prudish attitudes to sex as well.
Mm.
But yeah, basically, I can't really think of anything to say that hasn't already been said. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll hand the floor over to Koki.
Well, my question is, what is this more insulting to? Is it more insulting to dildos, or is it more insulting to guns? Take a moment to think about this. Because on the one hand, what you've all brought up, it's basically, you know, treating, you know, kids playing around with dildos as if someone had shot someone, which, you know, is incredibly offensive to the dildos. But at the same time, it's essentially equating, you know, owning a gun, be it for safety or for political expression or whatever, to the same thing as having a dildo to accompany masturbation.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, a lot of the MRA does seem like a circle jerk. But, you know, the symbolism, it can go in so many different ways when you think about this.
I don't think that's what it means, but I get what you're saying.
It's essentially like saying that guns are your little toys that, you know... hide your toys. But yeah.
But, yes, excuse me. Just, first of all, what Koki said there, yes, comparing owning a gun to owning a dildo. A lethal weapon to a sex toy. Again, America, what the fuck. But also, the point about the humour, the message, this is something I didn't pick up on before because, I just don't see it as funny. I just don't see it as an issue. Women use dildos. But the fact is that the humour can make a point more effectively, especially to people who are resistant to that point, than any amount of shock, etc. If they'd shown the two children running out of the house because they'd found their parents' guns, and one of them had gone off, and the mothers had both screamed, that would be incredibly dramatic. It would be incredibly powerful. It would get the points across. It would get the points across directly to everyone who is already pro-gun control, but everyone else would just immediately blot it out. No, it's an exaggeration, it's an appeal to emotion, that would never happen, blah, 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 blah. You're just trying to vilify gun owners, etc., etc., etc. But by making the same point in a funny way, playing on American in particular prudishness and this idea that the fact that we are more comfortable seeing people shooting each other in the face than holding hands, they can make that same point much more subtly and hopefully have a much greater effect.
I'd say the only problem I see with this is that a lot of the target audience are going to be the Christian right, who are going to be shocked and disgusted. You would only put a dildo in a video if Satan told you to. Maybe I'm stereotyping there, but that is the shock element of the comedy. So in terms of the audience it's aimed at, but on the whole, though, while I can see the criticisms being made, I'm going to say that I'm voting yay rather than nay on this. So when I go round for final thoughts, if you could end them with us summarising with simply a yay or nay to the video. So going in the same order, final thoughts, yay or nay, and goodbye, James.
Yes, I think I've said everything that I wanted to say before, and yay. May the great holy donkey bless your house for 7 generations if you do own guns, and you remember to keep them safe, lock them away out of the reach of children.
Aha. And so I was a bit surprised, so that was a yay after all. Okay. And Queenie, final thoughts, yay or nay, and goodbye.
Well, the flying spaghetti monster always preaches responsibility, and so regardless of how we provoke that responsibility, I would have to say yay, and may his newly appendage touch you.
And Gunderson.
Yep, I've said everything. I didn't really say anything.
You're a bit faint, Gunderson.
Oh, sorry, I forgot I'd put my headset down. Yeah, I've said I didn't really say anything, to be honest, because everything I have to say has really already been said, so yay.
Yeah. Okay, and your sign-off?
What do you mean?
As in your goodbye?
And goodbye, yes.
And Koki Pirates?
Well, I want to conclude in saying that, like a dildo, a gun can be many things. It can be lots of fun to play around with. It can be
dildo.
It can be lots of fun to play around with. It can be inserted in one of your orifices, I suppose. It can also be a symbol of your liberation. But we also need to bear in mind to be conscientious that this isn't something to, be put on display. Guns more so than dildos. I think that the message is a friendly little reminder. It's like, be sure to keep your guns locked up. Maybe a lot of people have bought guns, they're having fun with it, and they haven't really thought, oh, yeah, I have kids in the house. So I think it's effective. Ultimately, yay, and may the hamster of gun and dildo safety be upon you all.
There's a hamster for everything. Okay. I'm slightly going to tell you, James, off by saying men use dildos too. But I'm also going to add, I'm going to echo the thought, if you insist on having a gun, be safe with it. If you insist on having a dildo, be safe with it. And whatever you do, do not get them confused.
Yes.
And on that thought, good night, YouTube. Good night, everyone. Happy Wednesday, YouTube. Happy Wednesday, everyone. And I'd like to introduce my guests, Gunderson.
Oi, oi.
And you, James.
The great holy donkey blesses you all.
Aha. And joining us for the first time this week, Dee.
Hello.
Right, we kind of have a twofold topic this week, which is the colossal waste of time, energy and money, which is the war on drugs, and how the international mood regarding drugs is moving, thankfully, away from punishment and towards treatment. And I'm going to go in the order I can see you. Dee, your thoughts?
It's a colossal waste of money. One of the issues, because we have this war on terror and we have this war on drugs, but part of the problem is if you were to legalize, especially legalize cannabis and other things, a lot of heroin production actually funds, or unless I'm completely mistaken, it could be, from my understanding, is a lot of heroin production actually funds the terrorists. We're alleged, I say terrorists, let's not get into that argument, that we're actually fighting. So actually having this war on drugs, and it's putting the price of drugs up, or instead of growing it, I know you can't grow heroin in the UK, but there's other parts of the world you could grow it in rather than having to buy it from Afghanistan illegally. So it's kind of counterproductive.
Oh, okay. And you, James, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, what you were saying about fighting a war on drugs whilst supposedly fighting a war on terrorism, leaving aside the whole question of what is actually a terrorist, anyone who we hate. But yes, not only allowing criminals, organisations to profit from heroin illegally, but also giving blind support and money to the House of Saud, who in turn fund terrorism and the spread of Wahhabism across the world, actually creating terrorists. It's all a complete fucked up mess. But yes, sticking entirely to narcotics, it's not a total waste of money because people profit from the for-profit prisons, which are being built all over America. As long as people get 20 years or life imprisonment for owning for possession of an ounce of marijuana, then yes, companies in the US and politicians in the US can continue to make millions of dollars, billions of dollars from keeping prisoners as slave labour. And yes, the fact that the number of addicts continues to increase, the number of deaths caused by overdoses, etc., which would be less of an issue if especially drugs like narcotics like heroin were prescribed by a doctor. The fact that deaths continue to increase, the fact that, according to this article, SWAT teams, basically police acting like soldiers, kicking down doors, shooting anything that moves, and actually using grenades, are killing people, in many cases innocents. One case here listed in the article, a 2-year-old baby having his chest blown open when a grenade was thrown into his crib. All because all because we have to stop the drugs. We have to stop... What? You mean like nicotine? Nicotine, Valium, alcohol. No, the bad drugs. And why
Caffeine.
exactly... Yeah, why exactly are they the bad drugs? Well, because we say so. It is all one vast titanic mess of bigotry and ignorance and fear. Yes, what you were talking, about cannabis production versus heroin production. After the legalization of cannabis in at least 2 American states recently, many Mexican farmers have stopped growing cannabis and started growing heroin because cannabis isn't profitable anymore. Heroin is profitable. So obviously, you see, there's still a drug problem. Well, yes, because if one thing is legal and another thing is illegal, the black market is going to try and make profit from the illegal thing. So the solution is... But, yes.
Okay, and Gunderson.
I think I have a fair amount to say on this. I just want to say first to James, I think maybe I wasn't listening and you brought this up, but I think you've neglected to mention that in the influence of racism on America's drug laws.
Oh, yes.
So making marijuana illegal to try and racially profile the Hispanic community, and heroin illegal to profile the black people. That's that kind of stuff. So there's that as well. But okay, at least most of the overarching points I think have already been brought up. But I think to be a bit more specific to, I guess, Europe and the UK, it does seem like we were in the UK making a step towards that 10 years ago when, so in 2004, the Home Office, back when David Blunkett was the Home Secretary, decided to move cannabis down to a Class C drug, when it had been a Class B drug since 1924. And so basically it was actually shown in the 5 years before 2009 that it actually saved like 100,000 police hours, or maybe it was 200,000, because not arresting people for possession. And so, but the thing is, they kind of, I think that like the next Labour government following them, they seemed to do like a 180 on that under the then Home Secretary Jackie Smith, because they moved it back up to a Class B drug. But the thing is, it still seems like even today the police in the UK don't really focus particularly heavily on possession, even though technically they're supposed to. They still don't really prioritise it. So even in terms of like de facto policy, that still seems to be the trend, towards, or at least in this case, it's dealing more with the suppliers than the consumers. Mm. So it does seem like it's at least moving that way, even if, regardless of how much the naysayers may try to prevent it.
Mm.
And also interesting, James, that you bring up, the double standard regarding like alcohol and tobacco, because like at my college we did a debate about this once that I was involved in about legalizing cannabis, and basically one of the opponents' arguments was basically these two drugs, the only reason they can't really be made illegal is because they're too well established in our society. And they even basically just said, if they weren't that well established, we'd make them illegal too.
Yeah.
Which is just, you're missing the point completely.
Yes, but
I was going to say, can I just
Go
point
ahead.
out? I can't remember the exact date, but fair, in recent history, the government, when I say employed, they hired Professor David Nutt to be their expert on drugs, and he is a psychiatrist, and I believe his specialization is the research on the effects of drugs. Basically, he didn't give them the answers he wanted. He was unpaid. He did this for free. He didn't give them the results he wanted, so they sacked him.
Yeah, that was when I think that was when they moved it back up to Class B.
Yeah, I think it.
Go ahead.
I think it was about 5 or 10 years ago or something. It wasn't that long ago, was it?
Yeah, it was in 2009 when they moved it back up to Class B.
Oh right, yeah.
They sacked the leading scientific advisor for saying this is a shit idea.
Yeah.
Right. So to clarify, D of course meant he didn't give them the results they wanted.
Yes.
I know. I don't know if it's the same thing we're both referring to, but I get the feeling it is.
James?
Yes, just basically this is the perfect example of when it comes to narcotics, when it comes to sex work, when it comes to other similar quote-unquote moral issues and moral laws. It's got nothing to do with facts, it's got nothing to do with evidence, it's got nothing to do with statistics. It's all about bigotry, ignorance and fear. The fact that the police, the scientific evidence, everyone agrees, every statistic agrees. You decriminalise cannabis, you save lives, you save police hours, you save money, the prisons are less overcrowded, etc. None of that matters because the people who vote don't like cannabis. They think, ooh, it's a nasty drug, and they're terrified. They're gateway drug, they're terrified of potheads and junkies stealing our jobs and taking our women.
And collecting benefits at the same time.
Yeah, that's it. That is it in a nutshell. I am so tired of ramming the same evidence down people's throats regarding sex work. Sweden for the love of the great holy donkey. Britain for the great love of the great holy donkey. Crimes against women, go down. Violent crimes, go down. Sexually transmitted diseases, go down.
And I think...
Back to drugs.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was going to interject.
I know you're passionate about that, but let's stay on topic.
But no, it's exactly
yeah, I see what you mean.
It's
the same
issue.
Same mindset.
Aye.
Isn't it? It's the same mindset of.
Okay, Gunderson, were you not quite finished?
No, I will. It's not really relevant to the topic at hand, so I'll say it when we're done recording.
Yeah. Okay. Right, I'll open up the floor. Does anybody have anything to add?
I was going to. One of the reasons. I mean, there's two. To the best of my knowledge, there's two definitions of gateway drug. Usually when people talk about cannabis being a gateway drug, the problem is because it's illegal, you go to buy it, you are introduced to drug dealers. Hence, it becomes a gateway to other drugs. Now, the original, to the best of my knowledge, I could be incorrect about this, that the gateway term refers to the effect it has on your brain. Apparently, the best gateway drug... You're right there, Gundy. The best gateway drug is, research indicates, is in fact nicotine, because nicotine affects the I can't remember now. It affects the release of dopamine, which makes, when you smoke, drinking or taking other drugs becomes more pleasurable. So yeah.
And also in the UK, this is basically. I think I don't know if this practice would still continue if pot was legal, but I mean the thing is it's very standard in the UK to smoke weed with tobacco. Yeah, I think that's a European thing generally. So, and I get the feeling that it being illegal probably exacerbates that practice because apparently I don't know, maybe I'm talking out my arse there, and it would still continue if it was. But yeah, I'm not sure if that. What he was saying made me think about that.
generally, the most common way, to the best of my knowledge, is you roll up a joint, which is where you get some Rizzlers, put some tobacco in there, put some dope, cannabis, call it what you want, in there and smoke it. But there are plenty of other ways, allegedly, so I've heard, of consuming it that do not involve the intake of tobacco. You can smoke it through a pipe as well, where you just
bong.
You can bake
bong.
it. You can brown it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can bake it. There's a thing I've heard. I don't know if it's true or not. There's such a thing called a butter bang. So there are other methods of imbuing cannabis without involving tobacco.
Oh, okay. Right, well, I think we're more or less done, so I'll go around and ask for final thoughts and goodbyes, beginning with Dee.
The war on drugs is, in my opinion, well, you, James, did make a point which I hadn't thought about, is the money made from private prisons in America. But in the rest of the world, which, believe it or not, America, there is one, sorry, I just think it's pointless, and we should be looking into researching about addiction and helping people rather than throwing them into prison, costing taxpayers money, and being twats about it.
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, and you, James?
Yes, Dee points out, you're so passionate about the legalisation of sex work, and yes, I am passionate about the decriminalisation, legalisation, whatever term we wish to use, of narcotics as well, because it's killing people, literally. Our bigotry and ignorance is killing people. It is ruining lives for nothing. Mm-hmm. And may the great holy donkey forgive us all, for we know not what we do.
And finally, Gunderson?
Yep, I think I've just said everything that I need to say, so ta-ra and that.
Okay, well, it's a thing that's come up on the show a couple of times before. Ultimately, inevitably, we will all come around to realising that addiction is something that needs to be treated, not punished. Mm-hmm. Let's hope it's sooner rather than later.
Generally, I think that could be applied to crime generally. Like, punishing people doesn't really help.
Well, in some cases, prison isn't necessarily punishment. You're just keeping them away from society.
Yeah, that's
the only...
I could do a whole show on what I think of prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's a separate topic, generally.
Yes, okay.
That could be its own show one day. Should the show return?
Yes, because this is the last week of London After Midnight.
Is it? Oh, I didn't know
The great holy donkey is weeping. The hamster of prosperity has curled into a little ball.
The show may come back as occasional specials and also may come back for a second season. It depends. But for now, the show is at least, shall we say, resting.
Yes.
Which means that tomorrow, which as we all know is Thursday, will be, for the moment at least,
the end of the season. Well, the show is going on hiatus.
The end of the world.
Yeah, I was thinking of that and all.
Yes, well, we'll see what Sidney Newman and Mervyn Pinfield and all the other suits at the BBC think of commissioning a second... Oh, sorry, that's Doctor Who I'm thinking of. Okay, this has been Verity Lambert, Alex Wiley, and for the meantime at least, good night YouTube, good night everyone.
Moi moi.
Welcome YouTube, welcome everyone, and with a heavy heart I say that this is the last Thursday, and I have to say I'm going to miss Thursday, so I think that let's make it a good one. So, Koki, how are you enjoying your Thursday?
The Thursday is with me, and it will always be in my heart. May this Thursday go on forever in our memories.
Oh man, and Gunderson, what are you wearing under your kilt?
What do you think?
Good answer. And but also hope your Thursday is going well.
Well, just fuck all's happened today, to be honest.
Okay, and you, James, can you feel the Thursday?
Oh, the great holy donkey blesses the Thursday as Thor rides upon her back.
Aha. And D, may the power of Thursday be with you.
I like Thursdays.
Everybody likes Thursdays.
Not as good as Fridays, but better than Wednesdays.
Don't get me started on Wednesdays.
Ooh, but yes, well, and yet Arthur Dent said he never could get the hang of Thursdays. Well, what was his problem? But in any case, we've just watched a video linkified in the descriptionization, and so I recommend that the audience quickly watch that. It's only a minute or so. And, right, what I would take from that, other than, sorry if this sounds facetious, but I kind of think if you're doing certain things, you might want to wear clothes you don't give a shit about, but I suppose sometimes your parents are up to that. I would say, okay, sorry, but I mean, this video is about, girls being perhaps unconsciously, unintentionally discouraged from pursuing science education, and I think the criticism I would make of this advert is it shows that family and what they do to that child. I don't know how common that actually is. It doesn't actually show what, I suppose it would be very difficult in a 1-minute PSA, but what in society caused the parents to take that attitude. They also don't contrast it with them also having a son where they're not saying those things or they're saying very different. But in any case, I'm not completely knocking it. I'm just saying I've got a few nitpicks. It also was a PSA that didn't compare guns and dildos, which obviously is sorry. Okay, but going in the order. Oh, sorry, D, you weren't here for that bit, were you?
I know the video you're referring to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we did a segment on that earlier in the week.
Oh.
So, in the order I can see you, Koki Pirate, what did you think of this video?
Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, there's things that we could pull it apart. Did it say give it to your brother because he's a boy, or was it because he was the older sibling? Would they have done the same thing with the boy? But I think that's besides the point. I mean, it's not even a message of don't do these things specifically. Because, a lot of times you might not want your kid to get dirty in the woods or whatever, but it's more of a sentiment of be conscientious of what you're telling your daughter, how you might be creating barriers for her to pursue careers in engineering. And, I'd imagine that this is a field that Verizon actually wants a lot of employees in, so they have a stake in, getting more girls involved in the sciences and whatnot. Didn't try to sell us a cell phone, though. But in any case, I think it's great that, it's warning us to be conscientious about what we're telling our girls. Are we trying to push them to stay clean and pretty and, not muddy their hands? Or are we creating an environment that fosters curiosity for them to explore and grow? And, I think it's an important message that, it applies to all of the children, but, girls, I think, suffer from this especially.
Yeah, if you're going to take a little girl to the beach, maybe you don't put her in it or let her wear a dress that you don't want to get dirty. But, yes, I went to the beach today, so I wore my best evening wear. Well, imagine if it were an adult saying that.
Yeah,
well,
I know what you're getting at.
Yeah. Okay, Gunderson, your thoughts?
Well, I will say with the part with the starfish, there is a potential, fucking around in the rock area is kind of a bit of a safety hazard. So, I don't know what was going on in that particular beach, but I suppose that was my only real criticism of that advert.
I suppose they would be less concerned if it were a boy anyway, but they're sort of like, oh, boys climb rocks and things.
Well, in that case, that's an example of they're doing the right thing with the daughter and not doing the right thing with the son.
Well, yeah.
So, anyway, I guess I agree basically with what you said, that they didn't contrast it enough with these other, the lesser barriers we provide young boys with. And so, yeah, I think that's all I have to say, really.
Yeah, okay. And you, James, because we need the extremist, radical feminist, communist, the list goes on, viewpoint on this.
Oh, yes. Can you hear the picks being knitted? Oh, can you? Oh, the nitpick train has finally pulled out of the station. For the love of the great holy donkey, guys, that's the same kind of argument. Yes, you cannot put an entire sociology dissertation into a 1-minute PSA. You cannot put an entire thesis on rape and rape culture in a placard that you're holding in a rally. Let it go. The point is, this goes back to the latent bigotry that we were discussing on Monday. In that case, it was sexism and racism, xenophobia. In this case, again, sexism.
That feels like it was so long ago.
Well, it was 4 days ago. But the point being that girls just don't do certain things. Girls shouldn't do certain things. Girls are supposed to be quiet, play nice, and be pretty. Yes, we'll allow them to play with paper and glue, but when they start making rocket ships and space and start making the planets and so forth, that's getting a bit stupid. Don't waste your time with that, darling. Here, look at this new makeup kit I bought you, and so on and so forth. It's unconscious, and the problem is just always seeing white faces on television to the point where it's a strange thing when we see a black face or an Asian face. It's the fact that it is the norm, the fact that it is so common in society that we hardly even notice it, let alone question it. I was really hurt at the end when, yes, it looked as if she was looking at the poster for the science fair, but no, she was just doing her makeup.
I didn't notice that subtle irony.
Yeah. I'm going to quickly, before I forget, so sorry, we'll get to you in a second, Dee.
Yeah, just ignore the woman in the 90s. I know it's not. I know you guys aren't sexist. I am teasing.
I have an anecdote, actually, going back to my, I think, early teens, when my sister picked up the first of 2 science degrees that she would get in her life. Which was, she went to UMIST in Manchester. I forget what UMIST stands for, apart from S and T, obviously science and technology. M is presumably Manchester, but it's specifically and so she's, it's her graduation, and she's picking up her degree in physics, and the old professor guy, very stereotypical as I remember, as a sort of grey-haired man, posh voice, who gave the speech before everyone collected their diplomas, made a joke in his speech when he's talking about all the importance of all the achievements in science and technology and what science and technology does to advance the world. And I dare say he went through all these wonderful things, all those contributions that science and technology have made to the world. And at the end, he looked, did this kind of look, with this little coy smile, and added, "And ladies, imagine a world without nylon." And later on, somebody would remark he's almost certainly been telling that he's had the same graduation speech for the past 20 years. It's like, well, people didn't care about that joke 20 years ago. So yeah. So just thought I'd throw that out there. And so, Dee, your thoughts?
Yes, the token. No, I'm only joking. I personally didn't think, especially with it being a 1-minute video, I didn't think it needed the comparison of how boys were treated. I got it straight away. I don't know if it's because I was a woman or because it's a generational thing. I mean, I don't know how genders are treated so much as children now, but I certainly, in my day, many decades ago, that there were definite gender assignments in what you did as a child.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my parents weren't particularly like that, but I certainly saw it in other families. And I did see this, like, oh, don't get yourself dirty, darling. Whereas boys will be boys. Oh, yeah, boys will be boys. Oh, God. Typical, look at them playing in the mud and getting all dirty. Oh, no, stay out of that. Oh, keep clean, darling. Don't mess your head. I have seen it, firsthand. I've also seen another, this is an extreme example, I admit, but I've seen an example where my friend at school, she had a twin brother and an older brother who did no chores at all in the house. Before she could come out, and not play because we were 15, 16 at the time, before we could come out and socialise, she had to tidy her brother's bedroom. And I actually saw an instant where she tidied the bedroom, was about to leave, one of her brothers came back, couldn't find anything, so made a mess. Sort of, you know how when you're looking for stuff, you just throw stuff around. She then had to tidy it again.
Right.
And I have, this is, and okay, we're going back to, that would have been the late 70s, early 80s, and that was an extreme case. I've not seen that happen with any other friends of mine, girlfriends of mine. But certainly in my day, there really was this kind of gender division of girls play with teddy bears and dolls, and boys play with guns, and the only dolls they play with is what Action Man, and girls dress this way and boys do this, and oh no, you don't want to do science, little darling. It really was. Like I say, I saw that video and I got it instantly. I knew where it was coming from.
Yeah.
And again, I think touching on what you, James, was saying, you don't see, it's rare that you see women in technology and stuff when you're watching films and what have you. It's nearly always the men doing specific jobs. It's changed a lot since I was a kid, and you get more you do get more women who are shown in these roles. Now, you could argue, well, it's just reflecting society. Women don't do these jobs. Yeah, but is it a chicken and an egg thing here, mate? And I also know, certainly, and I don't know if this still happens, but certainly when I was a young lass, there was kind of like the brainy girls were teased far more than the brainy boys were. And they were made to feel self-conscious if they were bright, especially if they were brighter than any of the boys.
Okay, well, I'd like, if anyone else has anything to say, I'd like to open up the floor.
I guess with the last thing Dee said, at least in my, and I'm not saying, I guess, anything about the overall trend, but I mean, I guess in my experience, I don't know, let me try again. Basically, I guess being, maybe there would still be a gender, a sexism component if it was a woman that isn't present, with, a girl, than if, me being a boy in that. But at least at my school, being smart in general or intellectual was kind of looked down upon, because I live in a somewhat, quite working class area, so basically any show of like intelligence was kind of seen as being, a middle class toff, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah.
But would
if
that
I-
be classism rather than sexism?
Yeah, I'm saying that. I guess in my experience, it was that kind of hostility towards intellectuality was a classism thing rather than sexism.
Just want to point out, though, Gunderson, that is the classic MRA argument. What, you're saying that?
I'm not saying that.
No, I'm just explaining the whole issue. If you'll give me a minute
You
to
mansplaining.
lay it all out. But the argument that what are you saying that a poor black man in the deep south who has etc is more privileged than a white woman who lives in a luxury penthouse apartment on Fifth Avenue? No, but his the black man's wife, sister, or what have you, is less privileged than him. So I also went to a very rough working class school where being able to speak proper English and getting anything more than 10% on your test results led to a vicious beating. But I know for a fact that any girl who tried to show an inkling of intelligence or independence or what have you was beaten down even more severely, socially and verbally, if not physically.
Okay, I guess I'm not really, because, I didn't really have any friends, so people in general bullied me. So I never noticed how anyone else was treated because I was treated so badly. I guess I'm not really thinking
I was treated the same way, but yes, I did notice girls. There was a TV show. This is moving on to another point that Dee was making, that we always see male scientists in movies, etc., etc., etc. It is a question of art reflecting society, but entertainment reflecting society, but also art and entertainment influencing society.
Yeah.
In turn. So, for example, there was a TV show called Malcolm in the Middle. It's a sitcom about a boy who's a genius. There was one episode he was partnered up in a school project with the ditzy blonde bimbo who's always giggling and always who's the typical kind of LA blonde bimbo. To which, okay, if you want me to do this project for you, just I won't do the tests for you. Well, maybe if you pass me the sodium and the potassium, then I can get on with this part of the project. What, you mean you're smart? Yeah, really smart. To which one of her friends walks past. Oh, hi, Steve. The fact that she had to pretend to be stupid
gotcha.
in order to be in the...
I've seen that firsthand.
In order to fit in.
In order to fit in, in order to be part of the popular clique, she had to lie and pretend she was more stupid than she was. There was also a scene. There was also an entire subplot. This has been a subplot in multiple American TV shows, especially that I can remember. But one in which a girl is fawning over a guy and saying, well, I can help you with your geometry homework if you want. Oh, thank you, that'd be good. To which the teacher passes her test back. And 97%, excellent work. Shh, don't tell him.
Yeah.
Because if he's the man, if he thinks he's better than her, then he feels superior, and she has an excuse to spend the night quote unquote studying with him. Yeah.
Right.
Also, yes, I know.
He's in an airport.
I know this is just another episode of You James Rambles, but finally, regarding fiction, Deep Space Nine, Cardassian female scientist comes onto the station, gives Chief O'Brien, human Starfleet engineer, nothing but lip, nothing but abuse. I never should have expected you to be able to handle this. What? Because you're a human? No, because you're a... What? What are you going to say? Because you're a man. Men can't handle science. You're too soon. You just don't have the brain for this kind of thing.
Yes, Star Trek's done a few things like that, hasn't it? Actually, on science fiction, one thing that came to mind. Guess what show I'm going to mention? Not because of something that was on the show.
Doctor Who?
Because I could indeed. You're psychic. I can remember reading, and I think it was in the 70s. That an education minister, don't ask me to name them, actually said that the BBC should make the next Doctor a woman because it would encourage girls to study science.
Sorry, did you finish or not? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay, go on.
I was going to say, sometimes I hear the argument of, oh, well, you look back in history and what have women done in science? And I think, well, actually, if you really look, you'll find there are quite a number of women in science who have done a lot of stuff, Ada
You
Lovelace.
don't get credit for it.
You're using your computer, look up Ada Lovelace. But yeah, they don't get credit for it. But also, I mean, certainly back in the Victorian period where a vast amount of our inventions, because the interest in science was quite big back then. I'm sure there's a better way of putting that, but I'm tired. It's like, well, they were definitely discouraged. They were definitely supposed to be wives and mothers. Mm-hmm. So back in the time when these big inventions, these big breaks in science were coming through, women were definitely not supposed to be doing it. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of women out there who did invent things or who are fantastic mathematicians, and they have been forgotten. They are not mentioned. They are not recognized.
I think there was quite a long time ago, there was a Nobel Prize winner who was a woman. She was mentioned on QI, so I can't give you the era or the name. But yeah, there are definitely... I'm just going to throw an interesting fact in there, which is that... hang on, bear with me. Florence Nightingale, obviously known for medicine, also invented the pie chart.
Oh, I didn't know that. But, interesting enough, going back to what you, James, was saying, there was a black female nurse who didn't get the recognition for doing pretty damn similar work as Florence Nightingale. Oh. Unfortunately, I cannot remember her name because that's history for you.
Lord Nelson's doctor was a black woman.
Oh.
And unfortunately, I've mentioned her in a video. I can't think of her name right now. I think her first name was Cuba. You see, she was a former slave, but yes. And if you think about it, Nelson probably needed to be sewn up quite a few times. So let's assume she knew her job. Oh God, what limb have you lost this? What limb have you lost this week, Nelson?
Mary C. Cole. Sorry, I just googled it and it's Mary C. Cole.
Aha. And one thing I will throw out there goes back a little bit. But something that's come up before is science toys being in the quote-unquote boys section. And this is why I think that feminists should embrace the existence of the brony phenomena, because you break down the barrier, you help both sides. Don't have a boys section, have a general toy children's section or a toy shop, and have everything together. And if a boy wants My Little Pony, you can have My Little Pony. If a girl wants, a chemistry set or something, then let her have it. But don't have a great big pink corner.
Yeah.
Which
but this is twofold, though. It's to do with commercialism, because if you've got a brother and a sister of different ages, if you get them wanting different toys, so you don't hand me down the boy's toy to the girl.
Right.
You know, the boy won't want the pink bike, the girl won't want the boy bike, I don't know, blue bike, I suppose. So you make this kind of thing so that, I mean, if so they won't share, or you won't get a ham, you know, because like
Right.
you know, once the girl, like say the girl's 4 years older than the boy, and she's got a pink bike. When she's outgrown it, because she's too tall, because it's a kid's bike, you can't always hand it down to the boy because he'll get teased for having a pink bike. So there is commercial reasons for that.
Well, the thing is, you can have that's what they want, but you can have, even if you really, I suppose, yes, in terms of children being teased, yeah, okay. Well, that ties in with both sexism and homophobia.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, you use bikes as an example, but of course it's not just the colour, because we have boys, you know, it's whether there's a crossbar. But, which I never understood.
And also,
Yes, girls don't wear ankle-length skirts anymore. Get over it.
Well, as well, if you slip off your seat as a bloke, I don't think you really want a crossbar there.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
and the thing is, yeah, they genderifying products that aren't really gendered is it's been proven to be a better way to sell it.
Yeah.
In France, they
Right.
had this toothpaste that was basically called. It was originally marketed as for the whole family, and then basically they just got it wasn't selling as well as they'd expected.
Right.
So then they decided to make a for men or for women versions.
Yeah, but again, whilst we can, whilst it would be easy to vilify or demonise the manufacturers, the companies involved, the question is, why does this sell in the first place?
Well, we need to be looking at gender stereotypes in the first place. If there weren't these gender stereotypes, they wouldn't be getting away with it. They wouldn't be able to market it that way, because we'd think, what are you talking about? Toothpaste is toothpaste. I don't care if it's in a pink tube or a blue tube. See, I got my blues and pinks confused there.
It's the new gender-neutral colour, magenta.
Blink.
Yeah, and to be honest, the whole concept of genderifying toothpaste is very foreign to me. I'm not sure if I've ever... Sorry?
It's utterly ridiculous.
I'm not sure if I've ever seen that happen here.
There was only this thing in France that was brought up. Though it happens with all sorts of products. You know, there's men's razors and women's razors.
Yeah.
There's, all sorts of stuff. To shift the subject a little bit away from gender roles in general and going back to creating environments where children can study science, I'm thinking about that whole playing on the rocks thing, playing in the woods or whatever. And I'm thinking when I was a little kid, I remember one time I sealed a vial of my own urine up, and I wanted to see that if rolling it would affect the temperature. What?
In a jar?
It was like a little vial, but I had a little cork so it wouldn't spill out.
Did you throw it at someone?
Let him finish.
I was rolling it to see if it would affect the temperature and shaking it and whatever. And, I'm thinking about that one little thing with the girl hanging planets from her ceiling, and she says, don't you think this project has gone a little far? I mean, how much further would she be able to go if she were a boy? Would she be able to be throwing her own urine around? I don't know,
Yeah.
I have to admit, if I were a mother, I wouldn't want my boy or girl throwing their urine around.
Yes.
But that's the whole, I know where you're coming from, though. It is,
Yeah. So, maybe for the girl, the cutoff point was, don't go there, it's muddy, or, don't you think this little planet project has gone a little too far? For me, I could, play around with a vial of my own urine so long as I kept it contained. But, unfortunately, society did not really smile upon my lizard necromancy. We need to create an environment where, children are able to fully manifest their curiosity. And, this reminds me of something Neil deGrasse Tyson said when asked about how can we get children more excited about about science. And he said something akin to, oh, no, I don't need to help get kids into science. We just need to stop parents from stopping them.
Exactly.
Which is very true,
Yeah.
Children are naturally curious, boys and girls alike. It's parents that stop the children both boys, but boys, but especially girls,
Yeah,
because
I'd agree.
they don't want these glittery balls all over her house, or have balls hanging over her head or whatever. Yes, you are indeed. When she showed a passion for astronomy, she was curious about nature, and she had everything she needed to be a great scientist or a great engineer. Well, engineers are scientists, but the parents held her back, and this goes towards all children, though I can see how this is especially relevant to females.
Okay.
I just want to say that, yes, absolutely. Children are born curious, and then society crushes it out of them. And yes, the point you were raising there, Koki. First of all, engineers are not scientists. Science is an investigative process. Engineering is
Practical application.
Practical application. But the point that yes, she could have been she had the curiosity in astronomy. She wanted to make her own planetarium. She wanted to recreate the planets in her bedroom. I can just imagine her asking for a planetarium asking her for a planetarium for Christmas. Oh no, get her one of the little mobiles that projects pretty ballerinas on the wall. It'll be the same thing, rather than projecting the stars onto the ceiling. And yes, a very real example of what we've been talking about tonight. My girlfriend, when she started studying geosciences, explaining to her mum, it's about climate and oceanography and weather patterns. Oh, so you want to be a weather girl?
Oh, dear.
Okay. Right. I think I'm going to go round and ask for everybody's final thoughts. So, again, going in the order in which I can see, Koki, your final thoughts and goodbye of all goodbyes.
Science. It's a girl thing. And may the omnipotent hamster of everything bless all of you and rest upon your heads.
Yeah, we brought that PSA up earlier.
Okay, Gunderson, final thought and goodbye.
Yeah, I've said everything. As usual, said everything I want to say or can say. So, ta-ra, yous lot.
You, James, your final thought and goodbye.
Yes, it ultimately comes down to the fact that bigotry is at its most destructive when everyone agrees that it isn't bigotry, when it's so normal, so common that we don't even recognise its existence, let alone question it, when the people who actually bring this up are dismissed and condemned as radical, man-hating feminists, social justice warriors, or what have you. And the great holy donkey blesses you eternally as long as you open your minds.
And Dee, your final thought and goodbye.
Okay, my final thought is hear to what you, James, just said. Gender stereotyping. Please stop doing it. Toodle pip, chin chin, and cheerio.
Okay, and my own personal final thought on the issue is my personal opinion is that something like integrating what we've thought of as boys' toys and girls' toys and things like, or indeed boys' films and girls' films, that annoyed me even as a kid, actually, and all that sort of stuff. I think that kind of change, I know it's all part of the same thing, I think that kind of change is more effective than, say, ban Bossy. That's just my personal opinion. And also, I thank you to everybody who has ever appeared on London After Midnight. Thank you to anyone who has ever listened to London After Midnight, which may or may not be returning in some form or another at some point. But in the meantime, it's, good night, YouTube. Good night, everyone.